Okay, I just want to clarify before I go any further with this. Um, I'm trying to remember because yeah, I cried myself to. I remember being on my bed and crying myself to sleep. I don't know if I had the abortion already or if I was getting ready to have the abortion. I can't remember, but I just remember, and I wasn't saved. I didn't know the Lord then, and I was just crying my eyes out, like really, really, like crying and telling them sorry to forgive me and all this stuff. And I didn't want to do it and all this stuff. And, sleep came upon me and I fell asleep on my bed. And then, just like I said earlier, the place I was at, and there was this little girl, and I felt like she was my sister, and she was 7 years old. I saw her face and everything clear as day, and she was with me. And then I had this beautiful baby, and she had like a pale face, curly black hair, and I was holding her, and and I was walking with her, and the one that was supposed to be my sister, she was with me, and she was helping me with her and stuff. And I just remember this beautiful, like the water was like perfectly blue, and it was a fountain that kept pouring out. It was just beautiful. And we're sitting there, and I was with them, and I got the understanding that the baby I was holding was my baby, and it wasn't the one that I was carrying then. And then it was like the Lord gave me understanding that I was going to meet them in the future. So I was like, okay. And then I woke up and I was comforted somewhat. Um, then I had to go through with the abortion, but that's going to be another testimony because that's a lot of healing. And it was like a process, like long. I went through stuff a long time with that, but I just recently, God just started bringing me out of here recently. I was watching another deliverance minister, and she was doing inner healing, and I got healing from that time, from that place. I was able to forgive um even more deeper, you know, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot going through these. I learned that. Well, I'm not gonna go into that now because I want to finish like what happened with my kids. It's already at 3 minutes. So so okay. God throughout the years have been dealing with me about my child. I also was traumatized. The first one. The first one. I was so traumatized by that at some point, um, I remember my kids that were like getting older, but they were still young. And every time we would go out, I kept feeling like there was some at some point in time because I had gotten separated from my ex-husband. Well, now ex-husband, but I got separated from my husband, and I was running the household, I was doing a lot, it was overwhelming, and I kept like feeling like something was missing or someone was missing. I kept counting my kids. And I'm like, why am I counting my kids? They're all here. I only got four. I kept feeling like a fifth one was missing. And I felt like, oh my gosh. I feel like there's a fifth child missing. So God started dealing with me. It was about the first child, and I didn't come to grips with it. And it was like a process because He had me do certain things, and I got healing in certain areas. But that was such a that just shattered me in so many pieces. So it's like I had to go through different things or whatever. But anyhow, um, he had me watching this woman one time, and I don't even think I was gonna watch her, but then he had me watching her. I was watching her for some other reason, and she started getting on like, she went to heaven, and there were children in heaven, and some were aborted and some were miscarried. There was a lot of children, and she was talking about statuses. I remember that, and she was saying that like everybody has a status in heaven, but the aborted children, their statuses, they don't get like all the awards. Like if they were to live upon the earth, they get they don't get everything that they're supposed to get, as if they lived a full life, right? That's what she was saying. And she was explaining like certain things. She was saying that the miscarried children, they get all their accolades because they were that was their lifespan, that was their actual lifespan. But when we cut off the lifespan of our children, not that they don't grow, and not that they don't have certain things in heaven, because they do. It's just that their status is at a certain, it's not where it could have been if they had lived a full life, right? So I was listening to her, and in my spirit, I felt that. I felt like that's true, right? So I started praying, and I asked God, I was like, well, I wanted my baby, like, please change her status. And she was telling us, like, we could talk to him about it, whatever. So I don't know. After I had this vision, and I'm seeing my oldest daughter and everything, I saw that that man probably possibly raised her because she was grown. So she grew. And I was learning that they grow in heaven. And especially if, you have family members up there, like they take care of them and stuff like that. She was with that man, and my kids were with that man and her, and like I got the understanding that she was taking care of my kids that I had with my husband, because her dad was different. It's not. I have 5 kids with my husband, but my oldest child, I had with she had a different dad. So I was like, so she raised my kids, and I was like, Lord, I please bless her. Like I want her like blessed. And I said, I want her status change. And so when I went to Rhode Island, um, I was talking to her father, and we were talking about her. And I told him, I said, I really did see her. Like we had a girl, because we didn't know what we had. We didn't know it was a girl or boy. And I said, no, we had a girl. And I was explaining to him, what I was going through. And he was like, he believed it, but he was like, wow, he's like, you're seeing stuff that you're not supposed to be seeing. You're supposed to be, passed on and seeing this stuff. How are you seeing this stuff? And I was like, I had the Holy Spirit, like the Holy Spirit is showing me. I said, I used to always, see things, but I never told you. And he was like, wow. But we had an angelic encounter one time. So I don't know. Like he remembers certain things. So I don't know. So we were talking, and then he said, well, I wanted her. And I said, and so did I. And like after we hung up and stuff, I was talking to the Lord, and I was like, Lord God, please change her status because I want her to get everything that she deserves because we wanted her and it wasn't our fault. So then the next day, the next day, I get another vision. And it was like I was falling. At first, I saw myself falling, but then I felt myself falling. And it was like God's hand caught me and he started pulling me up. And he started pulling me all the way up. He took me up. And I said to myself from the last vision, I said, I'm going to hug them and kiss them because they're my kids and stuff like that. I seen this time I was taken up and I was in front of this cottage. It was like something you see out of a book or something. I don't know. and I went in there. It was her cottage. She has a place, but she has a cottage. The old guy, the old man that was helping her, I kept saying cottage, but it wasn't a cottage. He had a log house. That's what it was. He had a log house. She had a cottage, and it was beautiful. Some see I have a storybook or something. And I went in there, and it was like they were getting ready. She was getting dressed, like not dressed, but she was getting ready. And I went over there and I hugged her, and I still couldn't hear them. I don't know why, but I couldn't hear them, but they could hear me. And I hugged her, and I think I told her that I loved her. And then I went with her. All the kids were in the house with her. It was like they were getting prepared for like something. And I went with her. The Holy Spirit brought me to this area, and she went up there, and it was like right in front of me. She was like on a podium, and she was getting crowned, and she was like her clothes, like she was being dressed, and she had a like she had beautiful gown on, and she was being crowned, and she was getting awards, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then the Holy Spirit gave me an understanding, like what I asked, that's what God was doing. So then the Holy Spirit brought me back to her house, but she was at the ceremony. It was like a ceremony that was going on. So I went back there with them and I hugged them all. And I was hugging my munchkin. And I kept feeling like she was the one that I went up there because I can't get into it, but there was something that I asked the Lord to do for me concerning the kids, and He did it. And it was like I felt like in my spirit, like she was the one that really wanted to meet me. Like she wanted to meet me. She wanted to see me. They wanted to meet me. So I went there, and when I went back into the house after I hugged them, they started growing up. Like they started growing up before me. Like I know it sounds crazy, but they started growing up. And then I started getting the understanding that God kept them that way so that I could see them. Like He did me that favor. And then they went off to the ceremonies, and I went behind them. It was like we were like teleported. It's not like we were walking a long time. It was like we just were like thought of it and was boom, we were there. I can't like that's how things are in the spirit realm. You just think of a place to be, and then you're there. And um they went up on the podium. And by the time they went up on the podium, they were fully grown. the ages that they're supposed to be. And they were all crowned and they had these beautiful, my sons were dressed in beautiful, like these nice suits, and my daughters were in beautiful gowns, and they were being awarded, they were being rewarded. They were getting like accolades and stuff, and I was so happy for them. And then God brought me back down. I felt myself coming back down. And I was overwhelmed with joy, with gladness. I guess I'm leaving this with y'all to tell you that if you ever have a child and you lost them, they're with God. And they're probably with relatives, or there are people there that take care of them, and they're well taken care of. They have a wonderful life. They all have their own lives. They have homes. They have things that they are doing. They live a whole full life. And I was grateful to the Lord that He allowed me to meet my children. I have 6, and I'm very pleased with them. And the last one that I lost, my munchkin, she fully grown now, and she's looking like a young adult. Really, she's she's supposed to be like, I think she's 24 or something like that. But even though they were supposed to be grown like the ages that they're supposed to be, they look young. And that's the only way I could put it. Like, she looks like a teenager, and she's 24. Like, she looked like a teenager. They look young. They all look young. And I was pleased with my oldest daughter. And there's another part to this, because I seen my munchkin one more time, and that was the last time I saw her. And I'll explain it in the next video.